Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's BAInsights. Today's a special edition, a murder mystery experience edition. I'm really pleased to have three guests to talk to me and us about that very topic. I'm going to keep it mysterious, not share with any of you what to expect. I'll let Lewis and Imtiaz do that. But I would say is if you've got any questions, haven't looked at the session, or any suggestions or any feedback or even comments, please feel free to put your comments against the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because I'm sure there's plenty of more exciting episodes to come as well. All right, but let's start with some introductions. So, Lewis, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Yes, so I'm Lewis Carroll. I run the Murder Mystery Experience, and myself and Imtiaz, we've been running it for a couple of years now, and we've been on the BA circuit. We have been from Cape Town all the way through to Belgrade, and in between that we've done Belgium, London, Poland, various other places. Myself and Imtiaz, we share a passion for gamification and team building, which is really why we kind of get into this and created the murder mystery experience. So we're going to explain that as we go along, and hopefully you find it interesting.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will, Lewis. Thank you for your intro. Imtiaz.
Yeah, I guess just to build on that from what Lewis has already said, we've both been BAs for a long time, and I think fair to say for both Lewis and I that the BA calling found us in terms of how we kind of fell into the world and we've never left. So we've kind of used all our experiences, and I guess, and we'll talk through a bit later, all our frustrations around learning, around having fun in the workplace, especially in the modern world, and how we've tried to bring that to life really in what we've created.
Excellent. And I know we'll talk about the connection between a murder mystery experience and the world of BA as well as we go through that. For anyone that's watching this thinking, have I sort of gone rogue and started posting videos that have nothing to do with business analysis? And Paweł, to complete the introductions, please.
All right. So my name is Paweł Sidorowicz. You can't get more Polish than that, I guess. So I'm based in Poland, just outside Warsaw. I've been doing business analysis for more than 12 years now, I think, in different sectors, different branches, law enforcement, pharma, car audio, or manufacturing, whatever you call it. And I had the pleasure to participate in murder mystery experience twice in Belgium and Poland. So happy to be here and share my experience.
Excellent, thank you, Paweł. And your experience will definitely be very well valued as well as someone who's been through the session. So let's start then, having done the introduction. So Imtiaz, if I could start with yourself, please, in terms of what is the murder mystery experience, please?
Yes, I guess murder mysteries have been captivating us for centuries, right? In London, there's a whole museum dedicated to it in Tower Bridge where you walk through, an immersive Jack the Ripper experience, and and it's brought to life, as a child. Obviously, I'm probably showing my age, but reading Agatha Christie novels and being immersed in the murder mysteries, to then it going on television, to modern day, right? It's kind of global, and even Scooby-Doo is still an enthralling kind of murder mystery cartoon that keeps us hooked, whether you're 5 or 75. And I guess for us, for Lewis and I, it was really, I guess the golden question was, could we turn solving a mystery, and could we make people better at their jobs from solving a real world mystery? And that's really the idea, I guess, behind what we created. And we've tried to develop a unique, immersive way where you can have fun, but develop critical business skills through gameplay. And so hopefully today, through our conversation, and hopefully with Paweł being here as well, we can demonstrate to you what we've done, but also, explain things like why gamification is such a powerful learning tool, and how through the experience, actually people's skills actually get better and transform and helps people back in the workplace.
Excellent. Gents, Lewis, Paweł, have you got anything you wish to add at any point? Feel free to chip in as well.
Thank you.
So I think you started touching on Imtiaz, what was behind the murder mystery experience, but was there anything more that sort of inspired you to turn that murder mystery or that love of murder mysteries, should we say, into an immersive BA related experience?
Yeah, I guess it started really with we wanted a fun way to liven up conferences. And we've been to a few, as Lewis mentioned earlier, and being totally honest, we were kind of not really enjoying the death by PowerPoint experience, where I guess information is just one way and you receive it. And I need to experience when I learn. I'm very kind of hands-on visual learner, and it's never really kind of resonated with me, that kind of one-way sort of communication, information ingestion. And we were lucky enough to experience at a couple of conferences, a couple of speakers who were really engaging. I mentioned in a separate conversation, two of the chaps that really engaged us were Paddy and Grant. I'm sure you know, who got up on stage and engaged and captivated an audience through their personalities, through not only the words that were coming out, but how they were communicating the information, and whether they were wearing capes or having a fight on stage. But it captivated it, right, without there being a slide on screen almost. And so that, for me, for Lewis and I, was kind of quite, I guess, inspiration in terms of there's another way. And we had, as good BAs do, a good challenge, a good brainstorm, a couple of really healthy debates, let's say. And apart from my love for football, it turned out that murder mystery was probably the other kind of non-work related connector. And we thought, what if we make people work together to solve a crime? And what we didn't expect, and we'll explain a lot of this as we go on, was how quickly it evolved. People arguing over alibis, forming alliances, working together as a team, and then having to work together individually, as we'll come to in one of the latter games. And I guess we saw an opportunity to develop this game, this kind of fun conference experience, and we realized it could actually have a real world benefit and become a real world kind of tool that people can enhance collaboration skills, leadership skills, and team working skills.
Yeah, and it certainly resonates in jazz. I mean, as someone who's been to BA related or non-BA conferences as well, or similar, I think there's definitely a place for thinking about BA in a different way and bringing it to people who, as you said, learn a little differently, or perhaps just looking for a different way for some of the opportunity to practice some of those skills.
I would say, if you see such event on the conference schedule, like murder mystery, you're already attached. You think, oh, what's that? Maybe I should participate. And that was with myself, for example, because, I was speaking on that conference and I was looking for something fun apart from being very serious speaker and so on. And also, I think a lot of people are looking for fun in what they are doing, especially when joining a conference. You don't want to have 8 hours, as you said, in just PowerPoint death. I wouldn't like either. So looking at, I always look at some fresh things in the conference schedule, and that's one of them. Happy to have such, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the title as well, who knows what it could be until you actually attend the session. Maybe it's it could be just a session in dealing with difficult stakeholders. Maybe that's what the emphasis on the murder is about. But
well,
sure here it isn't.
We will, John. We'll go into those details and we'll make it kind of a little bit more clear about how it intersects with the BA world, for sure.
Excellent. And I guess how do you, maybe behind the context of this? I mean, what do you think it is that murder mystery experiences remain popular, whether it's in the BA world or otherwise?
Yeah, and for me, actually, Paweł and I had a really good conversation after one of the times that he'd attended, and the conversation moved on to how we use puzzles with our children, right? In terms of fun, engaging ways that we think actually we're just interacting with our children just to kind of buy some time, maybe, or kind of just have fun with them. But actually, it's also triggering parts of their brain and our brain, right? It's getting them to think about problems, think laterally, think what should I do next, and maybe think like on a chessboard, maybe 3-4 pieces ahead about maybe the corner piece or the middle piece. And so I guess our brains are wired for problem solving from a young age, and that's also true as we get older. And we forget some of that when we're older, I think, even though we're BAs. But we're wired. Escape rooms, crime shows, people still love it, right? So popular, even on a global level. And so I think that's why it remains popular. So there's a fun part, but I think a science part as well, because it does activate parts of our brain, the critical thinking, the problem analysis, cognitive flexibility from a young age and to an old age. And I guess also for us, what I think why we're glad as well it's remained so popular is in a world where we just love these, right? These kind of wonderful things that we stick to. It's a rare chance to really interact on a human level. 3-4 hours just immersed in human conversation, human collaboration, and also really fascinating human debate. And I guess we combine having fun with sharpening up those skills.
And I'm sure as well, I mean, certainly from my perspective, you don't necessarily have to be a fan of murdering people, of course, but there's more about, having a favourite murder or detective, someone solving the crime. So whether it's Inspector Clouseau or otherwise.
We can guarantee, John, nobody's hurt during the murder mystery experience. Everybody's all good.
That was the point we needed to get to early, Lewis. Anyway, just
apart from the wine glasses, right, Lewis?
Yeah. That's a funny story, but maybe tell that towards the end.
So I wonder, Lewis, I mean, in terms of the storyline related to murder mystery, I mean, is there a storyline you can share, or if not, I mean, perhaps just generally we talk about storylines and how thinking about things as a story can help individuals be a bit more engaged in the topic, such as BA.
Yeah, for sure. As Imtiaz said, we wanted to introduce this workshop to get people to learn but have fun. But it was we talked long and hard about how to make storylines real, right? So there's a magic ingredients in them. So if you make them as real as possible, people buy into them, right? So the workshop needs to reflect real life BA scenarios and real life business analysis challenges. So it relates to the workshop participants. Now we call the workshop participants the players. So for example, we start off with the storyline and we tell how Imtiaz and myself met and how we pushed each other through some difficult IIBA examinations. Everybody probably knows which ones. And how we got together and set up our company called Kilts and Kente, and how we almost had to shut down the company due to financial issues. All of that is real. And then you sprinkle on the top some storytelling. Okay. So for example, John, you're a seasoned BA, right? Let me know if you recognize these scenarios. Brr, 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 brr. Oh, you're on mute.
I thought that was a scenario.
Exactly.
That is one scenario.
Mute still works, yeah.
Nobody answers, sorry.
Absolutely.
Brr, 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 brr.
Good afternoon. Norman Novital here, SME at Kilts and Kente. How may I help?
Hey, Norma, it's Anna, Analytics, the BA from downstairs. You know how that priority project we've been given and we need to get it done by the end of the year? I would like to just pop upstairs and just kind of discuss a couple of the requirements, please.
Sure, no problem. Let me just check my calendar. Let's just have a look. Next year, suit you?
So next year, right? A perfect example of a BA challenge and the stakeholder. Here's another one, right? Brr, 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 brr.
Victor Overlord, CIO, Kilts and Kente. What do you want?
Hi, Victor. This is Anna, Analytics, the BA from downstairs.
Yes, Anna.
I've got these requirements. I just wanted to go through them. They're obviously priority.
Well, Anna, I'm the CIO. You're the BA, right? I pay you to do these requirements. Make them up. Do whatever you need to do, but just get it done.
Right. Another classic example, John, of BA challenges. Right. One more. Brr, 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 brr.
Good afternoon, Mona Lisa here, product owner at Kilts and Kente. How may I help?
Hey Mona, it's Anna. You know how we spent 4.5 hours yesterday afternoon going through those requirements? I'd just like to pop upstairs and just get you to sign off on them.
Yeah, brilliant. So Anna, firstly, thank you very much for your time. It was really, really good session and really valued the time that we spent. But from discussions this morning, we've had a change in direction. So unfortunately, we're going to have to delay until next week to catch up and complete the conversation.
Right? Another classic example, John, right? You spend 4.5 hours going through requirements. Within a couple of hours or within the next day, they're changed, right? So we at Kilts and Kente, we have recognized these BA challenges and we have now developed, you've probably heard of them by now, our world famous virtual reality goggles. Have you heard of them?
I can't say I have.
They're all over the news, absolutely all over the news. So you imagine going into a room with your stakeholder, you snuggle up your VR goggles, they put on the VR goggles, you enter into a virtual reality world. Easily you can swipe through revisions of requirements document, revision A, revision B, revision C. With a swish of your finger, you can create wireframes or prototypes. And at the end of your session, out pops a requirements document signed and approved. Powerful, right? How powerful is that?
Fantastic.
So in the storytelling, we take real life stories, real life reality, and sprinkle on those storylines and do a bit of storytelling. And when you do that, the people connect with the workshop, people connect with the storyline. And when the workshop, the players connect, they debate much better, they collaborate much better, and they learn much quicker.
And I would say, it's fun to see. At the first workshop, I got captivated by the story. And on the second workshop, it was very fun to see how people thought that this story is actually true. And some of them were like, you were going bankrupt, really? Is that the case? Yeah. So that was really fun. But another thing, Lewis, I think I want you to record my next ringtone. You have a that's what captivated me.
Yeah. that was you weren't born before those ringtones, to be fair.
This is not true.
There's another way to demonstrate a broader set of skills that we have as BAs. So I mean, it feels like there's probably some major ideas that you brought together actually for the workshop, and some of them we'll discuss, some we'll discuss as well. But are you willing or able to share, Lewis, any ideas that didn't quite make it into the murder mystery experience?
Well, I'll give you an example. Originally, our storyline contained video-based videos. And my favorite one was there's a scene where in the video, the project that was developing the VR goggles was not going well. So we, as leadership, decided to get all the project team to a free weekend, all expenses paid, to a country manor. So the project team started kind of arriving, and soon after, they found a body in the country manor, and lying beside that body was a mysterious artifact or document. Eruption. Everybody started blaming each other, saying this was your fault, the project this and project that. And in the corner, Victor Overlord sat quietly, who plays the CIO, and he's sitting there with his hand in his head, his head in his hands. He stood up, grabbed a clock, smashed it on the floor. The room went quiet. With one single tear running down his face, he said, "We should not use this document to blame each other, but we should use it to find out what went wrong and get this project back on track and save Kilts and Kente." I love it. Very powerful, right? Very emotional, great wee story. But what we found was when we actually played these videos in the workshop, it disrupted the flow. So what we now do is we do a lot of the theatre, the acting up by ourselves. And I was just about to tell the story, Paweł, about Poland, where we were, doing the initial kind of storyline and about the business going bankrupt, etc. And it was a case of I was starting to get worried because I thought people were going to start fundraising to get the company back on track. So it's we love the actor and the theatre now, and people buy in it so much more. It was really funny, Paweł. Do you remember that? Obviously.
Yeah, obviously, I remember, I was back then a member of the program board for the IIBA summit in Poland. So I already thought after Belgium, we need to bring those guys in Poland. So people will get more, invested in the conference. They will have great memories about this murder mystery. And it was even more fun when you broke that glass of wine and, you were covered all with that wine. Then it came down with, that there was a murder and Lewis was the victim and Imtiaz was the victim. Because he was all in this wine that Lewis broke the glass. So it was really fun. And it shows also the capability of this workshop to be a little bit more, improvised if needed as well, going with the feelings of the crowd, which I really liked as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, quite, I guess, representative of real life in that situation. That you're adapted to the audience and what's said in that way as well. So it seems, yeah. I guess you mentioned earlier on, well, gamification. I think Imtiaz mentioned that at the start, and I wondered, Imtiaz, just going back to it again, why is gamification such a powerful tool when it comes to professional development for BAs, as an example?
Yeah, and I guess it goes back to some earlier conversations with Paweł around the puzzles, and how that just stimulates the mind in such a way. And I remember early days of COVID, when my son was, obviously we were online and schooling was a bit tricky. He was struggling with maths and some basic kind of times tables and plussing and minusing and early divisions. And I just said at one point, let's just not do this. And I went out, got about 3 bags of Skittles, put them on the dining table, and I said, let's just have some fun. Right, and just began counting, began timesing, began dividing without him realizing, right? But just using physical objects, moving things around. Obviously, a bit of sugar helps, right, for everyone, and keeping the motivation high, right? But we all learn differently, right? Not everyone is PowerPoint, not everyone can do it in a classroom environment. And having fun and learning, I think, is the most amazing, most powerful combination, really. And I'll ask Paweł for his views, in a second. But gamification, to your question, it taps into our basic human psychology, right? The competition, the achievement, the reward, and also the fun and the experience being thrown in. And there's loads of studies, but just kind of one study I wanted just to briefly mention that we read in 2023 stated gamified learning increases engagement by 48% and improves knowledge retention by 30%. And I think we've seen this through the course of time with what we've created. And hopefully we've created more than just a game. It's structured to simulate that real world experience, that real world dynamic, as kind of Lewis spoke about earlier. You can practice persuasion, negotiation, collaboration, full-on debating, as happens in one of the later games, all in an environment where there's no real consequence, but you can really hone those skills. So you have fun, you learn. It's almost, the perfect combination. And I think what we've created also with the games cuts across those classic techniques, maybe like root cause analysis, business case development, user story mapping, as well as those personal skills, which often we can neglect: the negotiation, the debating, the listening, the team working skills. And we're honing in and practicing all of those in our game, which, again, going back to gamification and the modern workplace, we're seeing a trend, obviously, with hybrid working, where we're now going back maybe 3 days, some are even now back to 5 days a week working. So all these skills are now becoming more and more and more important as time goes on.
Yeah,
And we have
certainly the way you're describing that as well makes me think of the importance to business analysts of having as many different ways to investigate the situation as possible, really. So this is it gives people a bit of insight to different approaches that maybe they're not familiar with, or to make things a little bit more engaging or collaborative. I think that can only help.
Yeah, and I also think that, you come back to your good times when you were a child. So all generations, whether my generation or your generation, or whatever, we all went either through video games or through board games, and we have that as a good, fun memory of our childhood. And we try to, find some of that in our life also. And this positive, rivalry, some challenges that we overcome together as a team, if they resemble something we've done as children, well, that's a powerful tool as well. I think also human mind works like we're looking for solutions. So we are already into problem solving when we hear something captivating. And then when we can have a battle between different teams, and also sometimes play a little bit of who is guilty and so on during one of the games. It brings all those experiences that we had, basically, and were fun. So.
Absolutely.
And as you touch on that as well, I mean, it's important to recognise, you were saying, that the murder mystery experience and the benefits of BAs isn't just an individual one; it's a team benefit as well. And I wonder, I mean, on that note, Imtiaz, I mean, what barriers do you think that gamification can help bring down, actually, for the teams?
Yeah, I think we've identified a couple of really big challenges, and I think Lewis will come on to a couple as well in a minute. But one of the biggest ones we've seen are communication silos. And I guess from two angles, really. One being different departments not talking to each other, not knowing each other. And again, go back 7 years, walking around an office, you just knew where finance were, you knew where HR were, you could pop across, talk to someone at the desk, maybe have a cup of tea, or just go to the water machine and and some of my best work was done by the water machine, right? Just having that 2 or 3 minutes.
Or who to avoid. You knew
yeah, exactly.
Avoid
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Spying on someone just so when they're about to walk up and get a tea, you can grab them. And we're also seeing that within teams, right? My BA team, we don't know new employees, new recruits. I don't know them well. I've never met them socially. Even in the office, you're kind of almost dying to get out and avoid that lunchtime hour where you can all socialize. And so that dynamic has changed a lot. And so one of our key themes that we've tried to address is that whole kind of cross-team collaboration where, and I won't give too many clues away, but when we start the experience, there's a fun way to get to know people and get to know the team you're going to be working with. But we really try and hone in, for the most part anyway, on people collaborating and working together. So you're adopting personas, and you can see an IT colleague debating, working things out with a marketing manager, a logistics manager, an information security persona. Good old-fashioned debates. Also a great equalizer, because you realise titles don't matter. And I think for us as BAs, that's even more important, because we could be facilitating debates, right, with CEOs, pickers in a warehouse, managers of a certain level. But for me, I'm facilitating a conversation that needs to have an output, right? And you're just players in my facilitation, and I've got to get the best out of you, right, to get to the end in better shape, let's say. And you realise that introverts can step up as leaders. CEOs in our game get completely stumped. And maybe Pavel's got an experience as well. But it levels the playing field. And you realise actually, and going back to that, the drive to go back in the office, you kind of realise there is anxiety and stress within people, right? Which I think we need to practice some of these skills as well, and not just listen to a PowerPoint presentation on how to do it, right? And the minute you experience it, you feel it, and it enriches your learning.
And I think, Imtiaz, just to kind of, I guess, highlight one of your points there, one of the key things that we really, really get from this, John, is feedback from our participants. And you know that if somebody, because as with most workshops, people leave the door, right? And that's it, it's gone out their head, right? So, you know, it's generally what happens. But if you take time next day to feed back to the host of the workshop, like we get feedback and it's positive, it's such an amazing thing, right? So to touch on what Imtiaz said there, we get a feedback from a BA, and as Imtiaz says, one of the games is there's a lot of personas. So you adopt roles and personas of different typical IT projects, like, for example, your product owner, your etc., etc., etc. This particular player, workshop attendee, took on the role of the analytics, the BA. And again, without going into too much details, there's a bit in the game where she's got to debate and defend her involvement in the project against a stakeholder, for example, right? And she came back to us and said, you know what? I actually took that out of the workshop, and I started to actually say, right, what I'm going to start pushing back on stuff, you know, not in a bad way, right? But she then felt strength to actually challenge, whereas she didn't have that strength, or it just needed to be maybe teased out before she went into that workshop. So I think that's very, very powerful as well, right?
I would also say, reflect on that, Lewis. It's very powerful, and I was astonished how close to real life scenarios that was actually. So the real problems of team, you know, look, the UAT was cut. No, not really. That doesn't happen ever. Yeah, and coming back to what
Yeah,
Imtiaz
who needs
thought about,
UAT? Yeah.
about what Imtiaz said about the anxiety of coming back to the office. I experienced that 2 years ago when I was working 6 years, you know, from home only, sometimes visiting the office, and then they told me you are going to work intramuros, so you are only on site, and that was pretty difficult to come back. But such experiences like this workshop, conferences, and other stuff, when I went to people back and tried to reconnect, helped me with that experience. So I think also people working hybrid, so sometime in the office, sometime at home, can find something that will help them to go through that experience and come back to the other ways of working, or try a new ways of working, because the new generation might start it remotely and didn't know office work at all as well. So
Yeah.
I think such experiences helped you to break that barrier. So it's very important to do
It
so.
is, Pavel, and it was something I wanted to touch on about the serious side of the workshop, you know, and you've kind of touched on some of the key points, but, you know, since COVID, hybrid work has become a commonplace, right? And people see it as a new working revolution, but it brings with it, to your point, many, many challenges. I mean, for some working from home, it's great. You don't need to travel to work. You can customize your working environment. You know, you've got a flexible schedule, etc. But other people working from home, they can feel trapped, isolated, lonely, right? And you know, the flip side of that is people who are working. People sometimes thrive in an office environment, but since COVID, exactly as you said, going back to there, very difficult for them to reconcentrate because there's a lot of distractions and all that stuff. And I think myself and Imtiaz are fortunate that we do get to go to a lot of these BA conferences, and I get to speak to a lot of my fellow professional BAs, and I kind of, a lot of them are telling me that the anxiety is real, and you know the kind of the stress levels is real, and it's impacting their mental health. Somebody actually told me, I think it was a couple of months ago, which I need to share. So since COVID's been 5 years, right? Which I just cannot believe, 5 years. But it's been 5 years, and some junior BAs since then have only ever worked from home. They've never actually worked in an office environment. I mean, take a second to think about that. Never worked in an office environment. that just blows my mind. I think that is absolutely crazy, and
hard enough adapting when you're familiar with what being in an office environment and you've got the connections in place already, let alone if you've never been able to build those connections.
Absolutely.
And it shows actually, Lewis, I mean, that the murder mystery experience isn't just one dimensional. I mean, it's, it brings together people to, have a fun and enjoyable experience based around murder, as you were, and the theme, but also it's a good way to people to test their BA skills, another dimension. But then that really important dimension you mentioned is bringing the team together as well, which
Correct.
Just can't be overlooked. And I think any opportunity to take the team out of like the in-work office environment and help them learn a bit about each other, but also learn together, they can only be applauded, really. They can only have benefits to the organisation in which those teams work.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think the murder mystery experience definitely helps teams to reconnect. One of the kind of the complaints that we hear on the BA circuit, and you're there a lot as well, John, right? Is that Imtiaz kind of mentioned it earlier on about the silos breaking down and the communication breaking down, and people have stopped talking to each other, and teams are working on the same thing, but a different way and getting different answers, right? So there's no kind of connection and interaction and stuff like that, which, and for me as well, you talked about the water, drinking the water, Imtiaz, and the thing, but those coffee breaks are so important, right? You used to be able to make alliances and decisions over that quick coffee, or a quick brainstorming session with somebody sitting beside you, or the elevator pitch, as our good US friends call it. All of that seems to have disappeared now. And this sounds like a sales pitch, but I honestly believe our workshop brings these teams together, at least the first step to get back together, and helps people connect for sure.
And Lewis, I hear that a lot. As you know, I'm also speaking about community building or center of excellence building, and such workshops like this one help to build such communities and help to foster that team experience. And people are genuinely surprised. We are lonely islands. We work at home, or we are contractors working for the agency, so we don't really have that interaction. So really, you can build a community. You can do that on a daily basis. You can have such workshops. Yes, you can. You can bring people together. Back in the days, building communities in organizations was a thing. Now it's not that often that it's valued, but with such workshops and other tools, people that are working on different tasks but have similar challenges can find a way to connect, even through networking before and after the workshop as well. So.
For sure.
And as well as that sort of connection, I mean, for me, like it's so valuable being able to see how other, not just BAs, but other individuals you work with, how they behave, how they interact, how they perform different parts of their role, and because it's always an opportunity to observe and actually think maybe they're better at it than me, which they probably will be, right? And it's an opportunity then to learn from them, make it your way. So this is like another opportunity to perhaps see how people perform, albeit in a different environment, but you're there live, seeing how they go through some of these processes, rather than, perhaps if you're working remotely and not connected all the way through, you just see the outcome and it might look shiny and neat. You don't necessarily appreciate that probably that person hasn't landed on the perfect outcome at the start. They've worked their way there through, sometimes through trial and error as well. For
sure. And what we also do, John, is we can customize the workshops, right? So it's not a one size fits all, right? So we sometimes sit down with, if a customer has or client has a challenge internally, we sit down with them, we work out, what those challenges are, and we can try and customize that workshop to address those challenges, right? So, for example, if a BA team are having some stakeholder engagement challenges, we'll kind of blend that workshop to introduce techniques and tools that can help for the teams to address those. those challenges. Or, for example, a BA lead, like your good self, if you wanted to kind of try and understand your team in another level, another drop-down depth level, maybe to kind of identify future leaders, etc. We can customize a workshop to help with that, so you can then see, who's more analytic, or who's more theoretical, or who likes process maps, etc. So there's a lot of things we could actually do with the customization of the workshop.
That feels like a really important point to this, on the basis that not every team and situation are the same. So I think perhaps for people who are watching this and might have heard the early parts and thinking, okay, maybe it isn't for me, or is it for me? At least they can presumably speak to yourself, gents, and understand how it can be tweaked, refined to suit their very specific needs.
I love telling this story because, again, myself and Imtiaz, we get to see and watch and see how people develop within the workshop. It's only obviously a short period of their life and their time, but there's in one particular game, there is very team dynamic, right? You will not progress unless you work as a team, right? So I love this. So we put a slide up and say, right, this is the game instructions, etc. Before anybody starts, make sure as a team you work out who's doing what and how you're going to approach the game, right? And everybody's like, of course, yeah, absolutely. As soon as we start the game, everybody goes into their straight individual silos, and it takes them about 10, 15 minutes before they work out they're not actually going to get anywhere until they start, building that team network within that table. And we love it. So the teams that always win are the teams that kind of switch on quickly, that they've got to do it as a team and not as an individual. And again, some of the feedback we've had from people at the workshop saying, we get it now. Whether they take that away and actually put it in practice is a different matter.
And actually, it's very curious that this experience could be very different. On my first workshop, during my first workshop in Belgium, we had a very senior table, a lot of BA superstars there, and it went all very fine, organized. We crushed the first exercise basically, and we had a little bit more difficulties with deciding who is to blame, because we are all good, right? So there is no one. But in Poland, we had also a senior table, and then there was a little bit of I'll do it on my own. And before we got organized, we realized that half of the time has passed already.
Correct.
So the team dynamics can be so much different with different personnel setup as well. So it's really fun to see that.
No, I mean, interesting. We've obviously spoken a little bit about what mystery experience is without giving too much away. Can you just share what participants might be able to expect when they join the experience?
Yeah, John, are you a fan of theatre at all?
Yeah, I am actually. Yeah, I quite like going to the theatre. Yeah.
Have you heard of a show called The Play That Goes Wrong?
I have. Yeah, saw it.
You've seen it?
Probably about 6 months ago. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I saw it a few years ago, and that was probably when Lewis and I began to think about, how do we make this thing fun? Fundamentally, right? How do I make a bunch of players, when they finish the experience, go, wow, I had a great time? And remembering that play almost sowed the seeds around theatre, fun, engagement. I'm sure you remember the cast running around the bar kind of before the play even started. You're thinking to yourself, what are these guys doing? They've got
the thing that strikes me, because you basically got actors standing around. It's as if they're part of just the regular theatre, like the ushers. So you just ignore them and take a seat, and then suddenly it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the show.
Yeah.
And they start doing things. You're thinking, is this part of the show? Or first, of course. You're more involved before the start, really.
Yeah. And so I guess that was always at the back of our minds, right? How do we really somehow bring this into, 4 white walls and a door? How do we create something? And I guess it all starts when people enter, and we love watching people stand by the door. You know, there's police tape, there's a silhouette, there's a bit of blood, there's a couple of, you know, little murder things from maybe a classic crime scene that that resonates maybe from, you know, from television. And you see people going, do I enter? What's going on here? Do I need to go somewhere else? What do I do? Do I, you know, because it's all a bit kind of unclear, right? Because the door isn't just there to kind of naturally walk through. So we try and do that from the beginning right to the end. And our concept is, you know, imagine walking into a room where nothing is what it seems. Like someone's been murdered, right? And it's up to you as a player, and as Paweł said a second ago, the team to solve the case, right? And we're going to challenge you critically on all those personal skills, right? You've got to interrogate people you don't know, and then people you gradually get to know. You've got to analyze evidence, piece together clues, right? It sounds kind of familiar when you relate it to project world. But we've got a twist. Like every good project, there's a twist, right? Some people are going to be lying. Right?
This part where I'm going to go, whoa.
Yeah.
Into Dr. House vibe, right? Everybody lies.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You know, so there's a twist. Others are protecting secrets, right? Again, we know we work in big companies, right? Politics is often a driving force as much as the actual need, right? So, you know, people are protecting secrets. And the minute you think you've cracked it, and I remember a couple of tables, including Paweł's from Poland, that when you think you've got it, we throw in curveballs just to turn that, you know, that cycle again. So it's intense, it's fun, it's hilarious. But hopefully, and Paweł will hopefully agree, that you know, when you leave the workshop, fundamentally you think, wow, I've had a load of fun, and I can take some of this into my workplace.
I think that's numerous times today. I expressed that, but I want to say that again. That, you know, it's not only fun, but you can also learn a little bit about other people, how they behave in the group, how to use the tools and problem-solving skills in a different dimension. So, apart from having fun, you come back with, maybe we should have done it differently. Maybe we could have done something better. And then you think, okay, I need to search for more tools to upgrade my toolbox somehow as well. Yeah. So it makes you think, which is great.
I think what you described as well feels like it's going to be really the type of atmosphere to encourage everyone who's there to get involved straight away. And I must say, I'm one of those people that, in principle, I like to sort of stand on the edge a little bit for a little while and just absorb and figure out what I'm about to do before I dive into it. And but when you're into it, you're properly into it, as it were. And I think this is something where it seems like you're into it right from the start. There's no sitting on the sidelines.
I would say that there is also one thing that Imtiaz and Lewis didn't share, but I think it's quite important as well. And I felt welcomed when I joined the workshop, because you get this, you know, welcome. Oh, welcome. You need to select a balloon color, for example, which team you are in, and so on.
Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Exactly.
I don't want to give away too much, but because of that individual approach, when you enter the room and you are not just sitting anywhere and doing whatever, you just feel welcomed, and they genuinely care that you are there, basically, and that's very, very fun to do. Yes.
One, Paweł, I mean, sticking with yourself as well, what was without giving away too much of the detail of what to expect, was there a favourite part for you for being a participant?
I think that the game when we are discussing who actually murdered and who is to blame for the project failure was fun, because apart from the roles and personas you can throw in your own ideas what happened based on what those personas were like. I just don't want to spoil it a lot, but because of some people having some definite hobbies, for example, you think, they might use that hobby for the benefit to murder, and so on. So there are different conspiracy theories within the team. It all makes this experience a lot even funnier than you thought, because it isn't that scripted. It isn't like every time it's the same experience. So even if you participate twice, you can get a different view or different experience. So that's what I like the most, I think.
Excellent, thank you. And Imtiaz, I mean, from a perspective of someone presenting the sessions as well, I mean, do you have a favourite part of the sessions?
Yeah, good question. I guess without what Paweł just said is one of a favourite moment, let's say, when the dynamics change. But I think for me, so Lewis and I ran an apprenticeship event a few weeks back for the National Apprenticeship Week alongside the BCS, and we had about 40 apprentices there. And obviously some haven't maybe got the number of years in work experience, right? The kind of first time job, first time into the BA. So, they're going through that learning experience. And it was amazing watching a couple of them, but also when they came to us after the event to kind of, network and talk to us, how we saw people maybe a bit nervous, a bit shy, a bit kind of not sure what to expect. And over the course of 3-4 hours, become that persona. So suddenly you had these people who were now fully immersed in being a product owner, fully immersed in being a CIO and a BA, and the various other personas that we have, and feeling really confident to not only debate and negotiate in that role and work things out, but also then, as Paweł kind of mentioned, a bit of defense and attack type mechanism kicking in, and seeing them naturally kind of become that persona and learn about perspectives, but then have that confidence to grow, and seeing them grow is probably one of my I guess my personal highlights, really.
Excellent, thanks, Imtiaz. I know we're almost out of time, so I wonder, maybe Lewis, are there any sort of final points for you in terms of course, where people can go, how they can find information out? What anything else you want to mention before we close the session?
So are you going to put the links down below?
I certainly will. Yeah.
I've been waiting to do that for a long time. Put the links down below.
I don't do that enough as well. Yeah, the links will be somewhere in the description, as well as hopefully maybe a nice end page after this as well.
First of all, I'd like to thank Paweł. The money's in the post. Thank you very much for that. Listen.
Remember, this have to be used pounds in 5 numbers. Okay.
Small change.
Yes, exactly. Not traceable. Yeah.
It's great to hear Paweł talking about from his side, because he has done it a couple of times, and we get to see it from a different angle. So it's really good. And I mentioned earlier on about getting feedback from people who have spent a day away from the workshop, but still took time to come back to us. I mean, that's such an amazing feeling. Yep. But if you want to get in touch with us, you'll get the links down below to our LinkedIn pages, so you can reach out to us personally, or there's going to be a link to our Murder Mystery website, and there's a contact page in there, John. And if you use analytics for your put in analytics for the BA, you will get a discount as well.
Excellent. What a perfect place to probably put a close to the session. But thank you, Lewis and Imtiaz and Paweł, for providing loads of information about a quite different topic for us to talk about BA. On BAInsights as well. So I really appreciate that. Definitely look out for Murder Mystery Experience, and look forward to speaking to you again in the future. But as we say, the information will be somewhere down here. Have a look at as we go.
Go.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.